This is on the $2.4 million pay raise. I don't, my personal opinion, and I don't see this as a vote on a pay raise necessarily. I see it more as a vote on leadership, because our school district is a big business, and it needs to be run like it's big business. And we need to be better money managers than we have shown to date. I think some of you may or may not be aware, but at one of our schools earlier this 9 weeks, or the 9 weeks that just ended, the second weekend of class, they canceled the class because they couldn't afford to buy the books for the class. They eliminated the program for these students. They then took those students and put them into classes that they didn't select. We have cut out guidance counselors. A high school is sharing guidance counselors with a middle school. We've cut out media specialists or reduced them. We've cut out art teachers, music teachers. And so people that want to say, well, there's money to give this raise, well, that's why there's money to give this raise. We are taking the standard level of service that we once all took for granted, and we have sliced it apart to where now, today, there is no standard in standard level of service. You can go in any number of our schools and you will not see the same services being provided across the district. But yet, we're voting to give a $2.4 million pay raise. And one of the reasons, and the unfortunate part about these books and about these services that are cut, is that this vote makes it even more difficult next year for the principals, when they do their budget, to provide the same level of service they're providing right now. And I sit down with the principals, and I went up with the county when the county was sitting down with the principals, and I watched the discussions why they're $500,000 short in their budget. Literally have a school in, now I think they've cut some more, and they're down somewhere around $400,000 they're short. High enrollment schools are short of $100,000. And you don't run a business by increasing your expenses. We're mandated by the Constitution and by the state of Florida that we have to do class size. They're not funding it adequately. We recognize that. We know that. But we can't do anything about that. We're mandated to have to follow that. What we can do is put off a raise, a $2.4 million raise. We're in recessionary times that takes careful consideration and planning, and it takes tough decisions. And you guys have done a great job coming out tonight and filling the room. And quite frankly, I would probably have expected even more when you're talking about pay. But the people that are paying for this pay raise, the taxpayers out there, they don't have jobs. The retirees have seen their 401ks cut in half. They're wondering how they're going to make it, but yet we're taking their tax dollars and giving pay raises. And I just have a fundamental problem with that, when twofold, we don't know where this money's coming from. It's in the budget, but we're going to make it more difficult to do next year's budget. And we're not taking into consideration all the other people that are out there suffering. We're the fourth highest paid school district in the state on average wage. Our police department's not the fourth highest. Our firemen aren't the fourth highest. I don't know of anybody in our community that might rank in the top 4 in the state of Florida. And so I think we've done a great job. And I'm not discussing whether you deserve one. That's not the issue. The issue is if we have the money to do it without impacting students. And it's obviously not the case. We are already impacting the children. And so that's the issue I have with it. When I see our children suffering, in my opinion, it's time to set aside the interest in the adults, and it's time to take focus on the interest of the children. And that's what I'm here to do as a board member, and that's the only reason that I am not for this raise tonight. And so that's my
All
statement.
right, thank you, Mr. Kelly. Mr. Hill?
Can I ask just for clarification? I thought it was 1.8 million we were talking about. If it's 2.4, doesn't matter. I mean, so
Rita, can you speak to that
just
just real
make sure,
quick?
because that's what I've had in my statement was.
Mr. Hill, the step raise is 1.8 million. The $500,000 non-recurring bonus is $329,000 for a total of $2,139,000.
Okay, I was just talking about
Is the
Rita,
exact
what
number.
about the 14 additional people we're also bringing back on that we went through the first 9 weeks and didn't need, have a budget already in place,
So-
but now we're going to bring back these additional 14 people to work,
Right.
Yeah.
and we're
And
going to
if-
pay for those.
And we,
Okay,
yes,
let's-
and that
let's
was the
kind of-
settlement,
Mr.
and
Hill,
yes, that would be
let's-
right, the 300,000
Okay,
for that.
right, Mr.
Okay,
Hill?
well, basically, and I, whether it's 1.8 or 2.4, the thing is as I started off in this, we had a few good years in which this board was able to provide generous increases in our employees' compensation. For example, during a 2-year period, we raised teacher salaries about 16% over those 2 years. And even during the ensuing leaner years, we had longevity pay increases, which we call step increases, generally equating to roughly about 2% annually. Now, this has occurred, and I agree with Mr. Kelly, this occurred at a time when many of our fellow citizens in Oak County were, and some still are, facing loss of jobs, which means a loss of their income, and others are living on reduced or fixed incomes. As you notice today in the paper, Social Security 2 years in a row, these old senior folks aren't getting any COLA increases, so their incomes are staying level. However, the cost of living just keeps going up. So this is happening to our fellow citizens out there, but yet we've been able to provide every year something along the lines of a slight increase. Now, the 3 agenda items dealing with this, which I thought equated to about approximately 1.8 million or 2.4 million a year, and they do represent these funding increases. Now, I acknowledge that step increases are prescribed in the union contract, and legally and contractually we are bound to fund them unless we can declare a state of financial urgency. Now, I don't think we're to that point, but I also agree with Mr. Kelly that we are witnessing some things that I do not feel are in the best interest of the education of our children. We're losing, I think, some valuable education programs, classes being cut, curtailed, eliminated due to lack of funding, and the onerous constraints of the class size amendment. And affected the elementary schools, for example, some of the music art programs, but it's in the high schools. The course Mr. Kelly, I believe, was talking about was a science course, an ACE science course, math courses. These are very important to our students, and so I view that this is very important, valuable educational needs of our students. And I'm watching the schools and the principals go through a lot of machinations in order to try and stay within their budgets and meet the class size requirements. So therefore, what I'm going to propose, and I know it's not going to be favorably received, that instead of increasing paychecks, whether there's 1.8 million or 2.4 million earmarked for the step increase, that those funds be redirected to the classrooms and that employee salaries be frozen to the same level as last year. And that's going to be my motion.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion made and seconded. All in favor? 2. All opposed? 3.
Mr. Chairman, I was just wondering if, well, it doesn't matter now, but I was gonna add, Mr. Hill's the one that asked this to be moved to the discussion, and I wondered if he wanted to divide the question, but it failed for lack of it didn't pass anyway, so it